If 2023 was the year of the worldwide privacy tour, the last 2 years have officially become Meghan Markle's worldwide embarrassment tour. And honestly, the cringe is so potent you could bottle it and sell it. Before we dive into this absolute dumpster fire of PR disasters, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the Star Report right now, because you are going to need a support group to get through the second-hand embarrassment we are about to unpack. The ghost in the polo machine. We have to start with what might be the most hilarious unintended cell phone ever, and that involves their desperate cling to Netflix. There was so much hype about Harry's behind-the-scenes look at the world of professional polo. We saw the photos of them parading around the field, dressed to the nines, with camera crews following their every move like they were the king and queen of the prom. They spent the entire weekend posing, preening, and making sure the lenses caught their best angles. It felt like the entire purpose of the event was just to generate B-roll for the Duke and Duchess. But then the trailer dropped, and guess who was missing? Harry and Meghan. After all that posturing and outfit coordinating, they were reduced to executive producer credits on a title card. It is a level of rejection that is almost impressive. Netflix reportedly looked at the footage and decided that the most compelling part of a show about horses was, in fact, the horses and the actual athletes, not the middle-aged royal cosplayers trying to steal the trophy presentation spotlight. It really speaks to how toxic their brand has become. Usually, when you have a celebrity producer, you plaster their face everywhere to get clicks. Netflix apparently decided that showing Harry and Meghan was actually a deterrent to viewership. They literally cut them out of their own vanity project. It is the Hollywood equivalent of throwing a party and having the bouncer refuse to let you in. The polo podium push. If you thought being cut from the Netflix trailer was bad, you have to look at the raw footage of the event itself to understand why producers might want to scrub Meghan from the final cut. We have to talk about the incident with Dr. Sophie Chandauka. For context, Dr. Sophie is not just some random bystander. She is the chair of Centibale, the very charity Harry co-founded. She is a highly accomplished, brilliant woman who is technically the host of the event. But did that matter to Meghan? Absolutely not. In a clip that circulated faster than a rumor in Montecito, we saw the group posing for photos with the trophy. Dr. Sophie attempted to stand next to Harry, the co-founder of her charity. Meghan, sensing a disturbance in her force field of control, immediately clocked this. You can see the gears turning in her head. She refused to let Dr. Sophie stand next to Harry, effectively directing traffic on the podium to ensure she was the only woman in Harry's orbit. It was physically painful to watch. Meghan used hand gestures and body blocks that you typically see in professional basketball, not high society charity events. She forced Dr. Sophie to duck under the trophy and shuffle awkwardly to the side, just so Meghan could maintain her center frame grip on her husband. It was rude, it was dismissive, and it showed a complete lack of respect for the actual professionals in the room. It's that main character energy where everyone else is just an NPC in her simulation. When you treat the chair of the charity like a prop that needs to be rearranged, you aren't being empowered, you are just being impossible. The great jam debacle of Montecito. Speaking of failed ventures, we have to talk about the absolute comedy of errors that is American Riviera Orchard. This wasn't just a business failure. It was an administrative catastrophe that makes a lemonade stand look like a Fortune 500 company. Meghan announced this lifestyle brand with all the pomp and circumstance of a royal coronation, releasing a grainy, soft-focus video that told us absolutely nothing about what she was actually selling. Then came the trademark applications. You would think that with millions of dollars and a team of high-powered lawyers, filling out a form would be the easy part. But no, the application was rejected, not because of some grand conspiracy, but because of basic incompetence. They reportedly failed to sign the documents correctly and, in a twist that is too funny to be fiction, didn't pay the correct filing fees. Imagine having a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal and getting your application tossed because you were short on the cash for the registration fee. It gets worse. The patent office also pointed out that you cannot trademark a geographical location. Santa Barbara and the American Riviera are places, not personal, intellectual property. It is the kind of oversight that a first-year law student would catch, yet somehow the Sussex squad missed it entirely. We are 9 months in, and the only thing we have seen are a few sad jars of jam sent to influencers who posted them out of obligation and some dog biscuits that looked like they came from a bulk bin. There is no CEO, no product line, and apparently no understanding of how commerce works. It is less of a business and more of a cry for help. The Hollywood Reporter body slam. While the business was imploding, the industry trade publications finally decided to stop playing nice. The Hollywood Reporter, which is essentially the Bible of the entertainment industry, ran a scathing expose that completely dismantled Meghan's image as a kind-hearted humanitarian. They didn't just call her difficult, they labeled her a dictator in high heels. heels. The report detailed how she allegedly marches around like a general, barking orders and reducing grown men to tears. This wasn't a tabloid gossip piece from across the pond. This was a respected industry paper validating years of bullying allegations that the couple had tried to dismiss as a smear campaign. The article cited sources saying everyone is terrified of her and that her management style is basically a scorched earth policy. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Hollywood is a town that tolerates divas if they are talented or profitable, but Meghan is currently neither. Being branded a Duchess Difficult by the Hollywood Reporter is essentially a professional death sentence in a town that runs on relationships. It confirmed that the revolving door of staff at Archewell isn't bad luck. It is a direct result of the leadership. The frantic attempt by their PR team to trot out current employees to say nice things only made it look more desperate, like a hostage video where the captives blink, "Help me," in Morse code. The Nigerian stage block. If we are talking about the Nigeria tour, we have to address the moment that made my skin crawl from pure secondhand embarrassment. And no, it wasn't just the fashion choices. It was Harry's attempt at being a motivational speaker that landed with the grace of a lead balloon. We all know Harry has rebranded himself as a mental health guru, but his delivery during a school visit was so patronizing, it felt like he was speaking to toddlers rather than a room full of students and dignitaries. He decided to try some interactive crowd work, which is always a risk, asking the audience to raise their hands if the words mental health scared them. He stood there, waiting for a reaction, expecting a sea of hands and a vulnerable moment he could exploit for a soundbite. Instead, he got crickets. The crowd just stared at him. It was the public speaking equivalent of a trust fall where nobody catches you. The silence was deafening. You could practically see the panic set in behind his eyes as he realized his rehearsed bit wasn't working. He tried to pivot, awkwardly mumbling, "Okay, so you all know what mental health means, do you?" It was excruciating. It highlighted just how disconnected they are from the people they claim to help. He flew in with this westernized therapy speak script, assuming he needed to educate the unsure locals on basic concepts, and completely failed to read the room. It wasn't empowering. It was a lecture from a man who seemingly thought he was the first person to ever introduce the concept of feelings to Nigeria. The phantom crowd of Colombia. If Nigeria was about hogging the spotlight, the Colombia tour was about finding out that the spotlight had been turned off. They arrived with a security detail that rivaled a presidential visit. Helicopters, drones, anti-terror units, the works. They shut down roads and created a massive perimeter for their safety. The only problem? There was nobody there to protect them from. Footage from their visit to a drum school showed an embarrassing lack of crowds. We are talking about a handful of people, mostly press and security. They had thousands of police officers deployed for a street that was practically empty. It shattered the illusion that they are these massive global icons that the world is clamoring to see. The local government spent a fortune on this security theater. And for what? The locals clearly didn't care. It exposed the reality that their star power is largely a media creation. Without the royal machinery bussing in crowds and handing out flags, they are just two tourists causing a traffic jam. It makes their constant whining about security threats look delusional. You don't need a sniper's nest for a crowd of 12 people who are just trying to get to work. The visa panic and professional divorce. This year also marked the start of the professional separation, which is PR speak for, "Our joint brand is toxic, so we are trying to save ourselves." Harry started doing solo trips to New York, London, and Africa, looking significantly happier and more relaxed than he has in years. Meanwhile, Meghan stayed in Montecito, presumably trying to figure out how to fill out a trademark application correctly. But hanging over Harry's solo adventures is the looming disaster of his US visa. His admission of recreational substance use in his memoir wasn't just an overshare, it was a legal liability. The Heritage Foundation lawsuit has put his immigration status under a microscope. It is genuinely embarrassing for a prince to be in a position where he might get kicked out of the country because he couldn't stop bragging about his psychedelic trips in a book. Reports suggest he is navigating this visa minefield while trying to establish a life where he isn't just Meghan's plus one. The fact that they are buying a house in Portugal suggests they are looking for an escape hatch. You don't buy a safe haven property in Europe if you are confident about your standing in America. It screams instability. The ESPYs claw back. We cannot forget the ESPYs. This was supposed to be Harry's big moment, controversially accepting the Pat Tillman Award. But Meghan, true to form, made sure her presence was felt physically and awkwardly. As Harry went to get up, we saw the return of the claw. She grabbed his arm with both hands, clutching him like he was a life raft in a storm. But the real story was Harry's reaction. He didn't lean into it. He pulled away. He practically snatched his arm back and marched to the stage without looking at her. It was a rare moment of public rejection from him. And then you have the audience reaction. Venus Williams, staring daggers at Meghan, refusing to stand or clap, was the mood of the entire room. Meghan's mask slipped for a split second when she realized she wasn't getting the adoration she expected. She looked annoyed, then immediately snapped back into the rictus grin when she saw the camera. It was a performance, and not a very good one. Harry looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. He knows he didn't deserve that award, and having his wife clawing at him while while the sports world glared at them was clearly his personal hell. The courtroom, humiliating defeat. Harry's crusade against the British press hit a brick wall this year in the most humiliating way possible: a lack of evidence. After years of claiming his phone was hacked and that there was a grand conspiracy against him, his lawyers had to admit in court that they didn't actually have the receipts. The judge effectively told Harry's team to put up or shut up. They were tossing around wild accusations about bugging and burglary without a shred of proof to back it up. It made Harry look paranoid and litigious. But the cherry on top was the lost evidence. When asked to produce text messages that were crucial to the case, Harry's side basically said, "Oops, they're gone." It is the classic homework-eating dog excuse. For a couple that documents every single breath they take for Netflix, the idea that they somehow lost the specific messages that would prove their case is laughable. The judge wasn't buying it, and the public wasn't either. He is spending millions of dollars to prove a point, and all he is proving is that he has no idea how the legal system works. You cannot just vibe your way to a court victory. Hypocrisy at the Parents Network. Finally, we have to talk about the launch of the Parents Network. This was their big initiative to protect children from online harm. On the surface, it sounds noble, but the execution was dripping with hypocrisy. They sat down for a grave interview to talk about the dangers of bullying, while simultaneously being accused by their own former staff of being the biggest bullies in Hollywood. The interview itself was a train wreck. Jane Pauley asked Meghan a standard question about her own mental health struggles, a topic Meghan has monetized repeatedly. But because Meghan wasn't controlling the script, she looked visibly annoyed that the question was asked. She touched Harry's knee in that controlling, calm down gesture she does, and gave a meandering, word salad answer that said absolutely nothing. They are lecturing the world about protecting children from the internet, yet their entire brand relies on internet outrage. They created a support group for parents, which is great, but their advice is so vague and disconnected from reality. Harry, talking about the olden days, sounded like a grandpa yelling at a cloud. They want to be thought leaders, but they refuse to engage with the reality of their own online behavior. And that lack of transparency contributes to the very toxicity they claim to fight. The safety pin virtue signaling. To wrap up the year of performative activism, we were treated to a joint video appearance for Veterans Day, Remembrance Day, that felt more like a hostage proof of life video than a tribute. After months of professional separation, they popped up together, wearing matching dark blazers and poppy pins, staring intensely into the camera to talk about digital violence. The timing was suspect, to say the least. They released this video right ahead of the royal family's official Remembrance Day events, a classic move to try and scoop the headlines. But the content was just bizarre. They pivoted from honoring veterans to talking about their parents' network and online safety, linking two things that have very little to do with each other. They spoke in those eerie, synchronized platitudes, completing each other's sentences like robotic Steppingford spouses. It's the same script, different day. They stand there, lecturing the public about outdated legal systems and digital realities, while they themselves are suing everyone in sight and trying to censor criticism. Wearing the poppy, a symbol of sacrifice, while using the platform to push their own failing agenda felt cheap. They want the gravitas of being royals on Remembrance Day without the duty or the decorum. It was a visual reminder that no matter how much they talk about looking forward, they are desperately clinging to the royal status symbols of the past. It has been a roller coaster of unforced errors, arrogant miscalculations, and a level of arrogance that is genuinely staggering. They have alienated Hollywood, embarrassed themselves in court, and proven that they have zero business acumen. If this is their comeback, I would hate to see what a failure looks like. What do you think was the biggest facepalm moment of the year? Was it the empty streets of Columbia or the empty jars of jam? Let me know in the comments below. The tea is free, the shade is complimentary, and the only currency we accept is you hitting that subscribe button. See you on the next one.